Hey, we are live. Welcome to Into the Channel Live, podcast primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino DeCespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm feeling all right, buddy. That was a pretty good football match we just watched. And, if you ignore all the other news in the world, I would almost venture to say that I'm feeling fantastic after that.
Yeah, man, that's been my move for like the last, 100 days or so? I don't know. It depends on where we want to start the count from.
Right.
Anyway, U.S. Women's National Team 2, Colombia 0. Hard fought, I would say. And I was going to mention this to you. I adopted your counting of the 15-minute periods, and what I've started doing is scoring them as like boxing rounds. So in the first half I had 10-9 Colombia first 15, and then I had U.S. Women's National Team carrying the day, the second 15 and the third 15 going into halftime. But what did you see kind of early? What were your early impressions of the match, kind of like once things start to settle down a little bit?
I mean, early, it seemed like they were going to it seemed like Colombia was going to try to get Caicedo and Ramirez out into space. And in my notes, I said, okay, not a terrible strategy. Let's see how long that lasts. And to be honest, it didn't really last that long.
I'm just checking the chat here. We got Blue in the house. Appreciate your Blue. I mean,
Always.
We try to get back to as many people as we can in the comment section, but it's always great to rock with our people live. So definitely happy to have you. Apologies, I was a little checked out on your answer. We rewinded back? What did you see?
Yes, we're doing it live.
In the match. Yeah. See, that's where I went wrong. See, I'm parched.
There it is. No, it's understandable. Don't worry about it, buddy.
Blue, if you've got some nearby, that would be the time to crack it.
A Rolling Rock, perhaps, from beautiful Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Cheers to you. Yeah, I mean, it felt like Colombia had the right idea early, trying to get Caicedo and Ramirez out into space. Ramirez, like from the jump, she was playing physical. I thought that was a good idea, but it just didn't last very long. The USA started to dominate the run of play relatively early in the proceedings, and they just never really let up.
Yeah, I think things kind of settled in a little bit. This has been a little bit of an Emma Hayes, calling card where it sometimes could feel like the U.S. is playing a little too fast. It's like, I get that we want to get out and run and kind of get out and play, but now with the midfield that the team trotted out today, Coffee, Heaps, Coffee, Heaps, Johannes. Still getting used to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a real strength and a place where, I don't know, that was a place to kind of like establish, some control of the match, which I think they did. They kind of slowed things down a little bit. We're able to get players upfield. I want to talk about Yasmin Ryan, like kind of flew under the radar, but sort of had an awesome game, involved in both goals. Big play. She obviously gets the assist to Macario for the first one, and then starts the action, getting the, with a takeaway, getting the ball back to Mikion, over to Sentnor for the fucking missile. that was awesome. But yeah, I think Colombia, well, first off, they shouldn't be the 21st ranked team in the world. That's absolutely absurd. That feels more like a top 10, top 12 kind of team. They were at full strength. Good start, but I think they got stymied a little bit by the U.S. Defense and the midfield as well.
Yeah, I mean, the midfield was absolutely dominant. I mean, you hit it right on the head with Johannes, Coffee, and then Yasmin Ryan. She was getting it done on the offensive side, but she was also drifting back on defense and making some important plays back there too. It just felt like Colombia wasn't able to get anything really going after the first couple minutes. I mean, I think when we talk about the midfield, but I think when we're talking about this game, I don't know if we've said her name yet. This was a Cat Macario game. She was absolutely dominant. Even before the goal, she was helping, just dominate the run of play. Great passes, getting into dangerous areas, had Colombia on their heels relatively early. I just think, it just didn't seem like I agree with you. Colombia shouldn't be number 21 in the world. I think they should be higher. It's just they just don't have the depth yet of the USA. So it's hard to win in a spot like this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think thinking back, rewinding back to the very start of the match, I was a little worried, because you see Ramirez and Caicedo, when they're leading the break, you kind of get the feel you're like, okay, well, these might be the two best players on the pitch. Or, I think if they both hit their peak, that's
Sure.
certainly possible on any given day. But we were talking about a little bit pre-show, Caicedo kind of totally neutralized by Emily
Yeah.
Fox and the rest of the U.S. Women's National Team defense. What do you think USA was able to do against Caicedo? It felt like she never really was able to get going. She had a couple moments there where she was able to find some space, but I think the US started to anticipate some of her movements and some of her, you know, crossovers or just sort of like changes of direction. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that was just film or if they're just a little bit maybe closer to Caicedo's level from a football IQ standpoint. But did you see anything maybe from Fox? And I'm really happy that we're going to get Fox Caicedo again in the
Hmm.
Champions League when that gets rolling. But what did you see? What happened with Caicedo today?
It felt like, and I thought the on the broadcast they mentioned it maybe once. They might have mentioned it twice, but I think the key was she seems just more and more comfortable over the past year or so getting forward, and she was just kind of pinning Caicedo back. And with her and Ryan had some pretty good chemistry there. I know we had talked a lot about it in the Olympics. Emily Fox and Trinity Rodman had some great chemistry on that right side. Feels like Fox is an intuitive enough player to kind of have that with anybody. You have Haran in the middle there, who plays nicely with Fox as well. And then to our guy Blue's point in the comments, there were so many bright spots. Not only did you have Fox and Ryan playing well, but then you just have Johannes serving up these genius passes on the wing. And if you're Caicedo, you have to be back there to help.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe we got to about the 7-minute mark till we got to Lily and her contributions. The ball she put over the top that Yasmin Ryan got to, this doesn't usually happen to me at all. But the angle that Lily hits the ball, I'm like, oh my God, did Lily just really kick this one out of bounds? And then when you see the replay, some wicked backspin on it. The ball
Backspin.
just dies. Like if I just look like Phil Mickelson out there, just placing it right in a spot. The ball just dies in the grass. Yaz is able to just run right onto it. And then to your point, Kat Macario there to have like a really special moment to kind of cash in on that one. Lily was really great in this one, but also not her. Like I think we've seen her play better even in some spots. It was great that she got the full 90, but
Yeah.
I feel like she had a good game, but maybe not nowhere near her peak. I don't think. I think and there's a lot of flux too when you think about the lineup. No espresso in this one. We did have some coffee and Las Cafeteras on the other side, so
Wow.
a
Incredible.
little bit mixed bag there, but I think there's some still chemistry building happening this evening. But even with that, young Johannes was able to kind of like really make an impact on the game, and then have a hand in that first goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree. We've definitely seen peak Johannes, really dictate the terms of a match. I would say she was on the good to very good to great sliding scale. I would say Johannes was very good. I thought the passing
Agreed.
was really putting Colombia in some tough spots
Oh
defensively,
yeah.
even before that incredible backspin pass, which I'm glad you mentioned it because you on the replay you could see it so clearly, the
Yeah.
backspin on it. I was like, holy shit. I mean, it was perfectly placed. It was weighted just incredibly well for Ryan. But even then, before that, she had a couple long passes where in my notes, I think I had wrote, yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly breaking, but I wrote Johannes's passing is creating problems for Colombia's back line. And then that was in somewhere in the second 15 minutes. And then it was right into the third 15 where she gets that assist, which reminds me, and maybe in the real record books, maybe there is not an assist for Lily Johannes on that play. But luckily, we got the ITC record book that is very clearly. I'm saying that's got to be an assist.
It's already in there.
There it is. Um, I mean, I mean, she is just such a genius player at 17 years old. We'll talk about Ali Sentnor as we kind of go through the match, but Johannes at 17, Sentnor at 21. I would be concerned. It doesn't mean they're going to blow everybody out of the water every match, but every other team should be looking at that and thinking we might be in trouble.
I mean, they would be dead on for thinking that, because those two players were awesome this evening. And I'm a little mini pat on the back, but we talked about going into this tournament when the rosters dropped. I remember having the notion that this could be an opportunity for one of these attacking players, especially no triple espresso. Like somebody could step up. I think we talked about, Yasmin Ryan, talked a little bit briefly about Sentnor, Macario, who you also mentioned. Sentnor might be that player that really is like, yo, I'm here. I'm not sure you can keep me off the field with what I'm able to do. But before we get there, I want to talk a little Myra Ramirez, because she was a beast. She's always a beast. She's a handful, like defensively. She basically turned Tara McKeown and Emily Sonnet into a tasty bucket of barbecue chicken after the first goal, and then missed a bunny, like a very, uncharacteristic miss from Myra Ramirez. And I think had the effect of maybe deflating that Colombian side. That is your, when Caicedo's not able to kind of get going, Ramirez gets a chance like that, which she buries that 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 pretty much all day. To miss that one in that spot, tough for Ramirez, but what do you see from her overall in this one?
Yeah, I mean, she tried. I think we had mentioned earlier. She tried to set the tone physically early, which is always a good move from her to kind of impose her will. I thought Mickey Owen bounced back from that pretty well throughout the course of the match.
Yep.
It is funny that you said that you feel like Ramirez makes that 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times. My notes also say Ramirez misses a chance that she probably scores 90% of the time. So I didn't go with the numbers like you. I chose a percentage. But when she totally blows past Sonnet in the middle of the 18, I was like, oh, well, that's a goal. And I couldn't believe that she skied it over there. I think you're right. That felt more like the spiritual backbreaker, which is tough when you're only down 1-0 heading into halftime. But like if your best player, or at worst, if maybe somebody might rate Caicedo over Ramirez, I wouldn't, but I would see the argument possibly. When your best player, your number 9, misses that chance, it felt like, okay, you might be in for a long one, because you might not get many more of those.
Yeah, that was really tough. And I think looking at the stats here, Colombia managed 7 shot attempts, none on target. That was pretty much the one. I think that would have changed the entire tenor of the match. And she had space and time. Like, not that she rushed it, but she almost could have like wound up a little, or even like peeked up at the goal and kind of try to place it a little bit in a little bit of a cuter way. But all in all, she missed that one and goes into halftime 1-0. Is that right? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Goes into halftime 1-0. At the half, well, I guess where was your head at halftime? Like, was it, did you kind of feel like, because from my standpoint, I was like, okay, Colombia got off to a good start. US grabbed control of the first half, the last half, last 30 minutes of the first half. And then you factor in the goal, and of like a very team natured goal to kind of put them up 1. Myra misses that chance. It kind of felt like the U.S. should have been in a little bit of cruise control, but at the same time, they didn't look extremely fluid. I think probably having to do with a lot of roster kind of upheaval. We've never seen this lineup for sure. But what was your mindset halftime going into the second half? What were your expectations?
Yeah, I'll read you right from my notes, because at the half, I always try to jot down some stuff. I want to say Shanice and Panda, both in the comments. Thank you for hanging out with us. Shanice describes Johannes as a true box-to-box midfielder, 100% right. And Panda points out the midfield was midfielding for the first time in a long time. I mean, that was really especially true in the first half. Those were things that really jumped out to me. So straight from my notes, I wrote Colombia was dangerous, was able to look dangerous at times, mostly early, but they couldn't keep any kind of dangerous possession going. And USA, and this is where the midfield comes in, they were just swarming to the ball in waves. And they made Caicedo almost completely invisible out there. I think she had like one semi-dangerous run. And then the last two things I wrote, not to rehash things we already said, but Caicedo versus Fox in the Champions League. Give me 2 matches of that immediately. I'm looking forward to that. And my players of the half, Macario, Johannes, and Sentnor. And I didn't even know what was awaiting us on the other side of halftime from Sentnor. But she was dangerous the whole time, was able to play the ball off the sideline multiple times and get into dangerous areas. I just thought, we have a 25-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 21-year-old just absolutely dominating the game.
Yeah, totally. And I want to throw in Jenna Neiswanger as well with regard to somebody who had a strong first half. And I was talking to you about this a little bit pre-show. Jenna Neiswanger for the U.S. Women's National Team, much different than club level, Jenna Neiswanger for whatever reason. Maybe it's just sort of like some familiarity, or maybe like seeing Fox on the other side kind of, balances things out. Maybe they can bring some of that chemistry over to Arsenal. We'll keep an eye on that. I want to read some my Ali Sentnor notes from my book. So I wrote Sentnor, some moments, ! Balling, plays bigger. Holy fuck. That was the goal was the holy fuck was the goal move.
Right. That makes sense.
That goal to put the US up 2, I mentioned Yasmin Ryan, so she gets the takeaway deep in Colombia territory, gets it back to Tara McKeown, who then gets it back forward to Sentnor. I mean, I let out an audible, I don't know, probably the highest pitched squeal that I've let out, I don't know, maybe since pre-puberty. That was incredible. Nice. I can't remember. I'm sure you're going to know this because you're much more of a U.S. Women's National Team historian. But when was the last time the U.S. had a player that had that level of rocket in their bag? Because I think we saw Fox do that for Arsenal this past week. Now, but Sentnor, that's her game. That's and they mentioned on the telecast that she went on Sam Mewis's podcast and talked about her needing to develop her header game and just being more of like a striker, and that was just on full display. But when was the last time the U.S. had a player capable of that, if they've ever had a player kind of capable of doing that at any kind of consistent level?
Okay, I'll ask. You flatter me by referring to me as more of a U.S. Women's National Team historian. I appreciate that. I'll ask the chat to help us out. The first 2 players that came to mind, I started to chuckle there when you mentioned that she was on Sam Mewis's podcast, because Sam Mewis could score from range, had an absolute laser off of her right boot. I would say Carly Lloyd had that in her bag where she could score from distance. Those are the first 2 that come to mind. I know I'm missing a few, but as the play happens, Sentnor collects the ball from McKeown. As soon as she makes that one cut inside, and as soon as she makes the cut, she's like, I'm getting this on my right foot and I'm going to fire. I don't care that I'm like 25 yards out. She might have been further than that.
I think so.
Yeah. And as soon as she cuts, and she knows she's going to fire it, and she just launches it. Colombian goalkeeper, is it Catherine? Just want to make sure. Yeah, Catherine Tapia, who's a cop. Apparently, we found out on the broadcast. Completely frozen, has no chance at it. I would have liked to see the body cam footage as that goal went in from Sentnor.
Yep. Tapia, the right to remain silent on that one. So we laugh about like being like rooted to the spot. So Sentnor pulls the crossover and like sits down the defender. And then you rarely see the frozen goalkeeper so frozen that she then just falls backward.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Just like, oh my God, that was insane. Shout out to our guy Blue, who also is calling out Sentnor's defense, which I thought was extremely spirited, entertaining. It was great to see Sentnor just mixing it up, and then just happy to be like, yo, I have attacking players here. I play in Utah where I don't necessarily have this.
Sure.
So I'm going to get the ball, and with my accuracy and my touch, I'm going to get the ball upfield, and I'm going to play some defense here and really mix it up, which was so cool to see because Colombia came out really physical, really trying to set a tone. And I think the first 10 minutes I wrote down, so Coffee takes a shot to the face, early,
Ooh,
38
yeah.
degrees, was the weather report. So that couldn't have felt good. Pavi took a shot as well. Nice swanger went flying out of bounds at one point. Teramikion as well. So it was definitely a physical matchup. Really cool to see Ali Sentnor kind of mix it up or be happy to.
Yeah, I mean, she has a lot to her game. I'm glad you point out that she plays bigger than she is because I always forget. I think she's listed at 5'3", and she doesn't look like that on the field in any real way. So, I mean, we talked about her, pre-match in our last episode where we kind of previewed the SheBelieves Cup, um, or I think we talked about her when the roster came out. I mean, she's just it's easy to say because she's the number one pick. I think it's cool that she's the number one overall pick in the final NWSL draft ever. That'll be cool trivia as her career goes on. She just couldn't be any more of a can't miss prospect. She is a
Mm-hmm.
superstar. There is no doubt about it. And we don't have to talk about all the machinations now, but you're right where you have to find a way to get her on the field with triple espresso. So I don't know how it necessarily is going to happen, but Emma Hayes has to find a way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it's a tough spot because you think about maybe we could think about that front four if you consider include like the 10 in that set. You've got obviously Sophie Wilson, Swanson, Rodman. Then you've got Macario.
Yeah,
Sentnor's in the mix there. Um, Jaden Shaw is probably on the outside looking in, but like mm, I do kind of feel like Sentnor's going to push for one of those spots. Maybe it's the Swanson spot. We'll have to kind of
could
keep an
be.
eye on that. But either way, Sentnor's coming. Like
Yeah.
I think it's only a matter of time before she's at the Sharpie level of getting penciled into the lineup. Um, any other big takeaways from the match?
Oh, I just think I know we talked about the midfield a little bit. I just want to say it felt like Lacey Santos did everything she could. I mean, it was a scrappy performance from her, but her Restrepo and Usme, again, I hate to like repeat it, but they couldn't get a damn thing going. There,
Mm-hmm.
there were also moments where they're trying to play the ball forward, and it just felt like Coffee and Johannes are just converging on the ball and just popping it out. And there's Ryan standing right there in perfect position to start getting the ball forward. Um, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of midfield play that we want to see. And I wonder when you talk about that front four, maybe because of and Macario looks great, and I hope we never see her get injured again. But maybe in that rotation, perhaps Sentnor could spell Macario in certain matches, or if you have a quick turnaround, maybe you want to be careful with Macario's injury. I could see that. I'm with you though. They played Sentnor. She played a lot on the left wing today. It could be a situation where she spells Swanson occasionally. So a lot of a lot of good problems to have for USA. Wasn't Colombia's night. It doesn't take anything away from them. I think their manager, I want to Marsilia, Angelo Marsilia. He had pointed out like the things they're working on is like their physical conditioning, their ability to play at pace through long stretches. I think that dude has the right idea. I think he's done an admirable job coaching that side, and I think he's on to the right things of like, okay, if as we kind of build our depth as a squad, we just need to make sure that we are as well conditioned and as tough as possible.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Definitely trending up in terms of kind of like world. They're gonna be a force, I think, for the foreseeable future here. Especially, I mean, Myra, I think is definitely mid. I don't think she's 26 yet. Sure, she might have just recently turned 26. And Caicedo definitely still a baby as well.
Yeah.
And they've just got professional players like up and down the pitch. Both of the Ariases, Lacey Santos. They brought on Ana Maria Guzman later, who was involved in a near goal. Like, Colombia actually had some looks late. I think the last
Yeah.
10, 12 minutes, they were able to kind of find some crevices, but not really able to kind of cash in on anything big. In terms of the US's next matchup, I'm looking at the lineup here. Trying to think through who I would be excited to see suit up. We also got some Michelle Cooper minutes in this one. I thought she
Can
played
I?
pretty well.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree. That's why I want to jump in. I thought Michelle Cooper fit in really nicely. She came on for Yasmin Ryan. She immediately played physical. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Kata Usme, who they both go for a ball, and like they just like it's one of those where both players' feet hit the opposite sides of the ball, and Kata Usme like just bites it because Michelle Cooper is just a Mack truck out there. It might have been Usman. I can't remember which Colombian player it is. Forgive me. But like, and then the camera goes to her, and you just hear her go, ah. And I'm not laughing because she's in pain, but it's just like it was very clear that Michelle Cooper, amongst professional athletes, is a real force. Is still a percentage, like just more physical than the other great athletes out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think is smooth on the ball, is smart, kind of like has good placement when she's crossing the ball in. So I'll be excited to see Michelle get some more minutes. No Claire Hutton today. No Emily Sams. No Emma Sears. No Alyssa Thompson.
Mhm.
I guess we'll see if there's any lineup machinations going into the Australia matchup. Now, Australia, I didn't catch too much of that one versus Japan, but I know they got smacked pretty good. I feel like it'll be a good. So I mean, we'll see, because I can see Australia kind of bouncing back and trying to summon a little bit of like kind of like professional or national pride in this one against the USA before what could be a massive final match against Japan. But what are you going to be looking for against Australia? Like kind of like knowing that they've got talented players. I think chemistry wise, they're for whatever reason, they haven't really been able to. They just don't look that cohesive, kind of like without Sam Kerr.
Yeah.
But from the USA standpoint, what are you going to be looking for when those two teams meet up?
Well, I'm surprised that I'm going to be the guy to do this. I know you mentioned her, and I'm surprised she wasn't the first name you mentioned. I want to see Emily Sams play. I could now. I think I got one of the things that I first thought of when I saw the lineup pre-match was, okay, it makes sense. I know we had talked about, could we see Sams and Davidson as the two center backs? Davidson doesn't appear in this match, but when the lineup comes out and I go, okay, we're going to see Mikion and Sonnet, because it doesn't make as much sense to play Mikion and Sams, even though I believe them both to be excellent center backs. You just don't have enough national team experience between the two of them. So if you're going to play Mikion at center back, you should probably start Sonnet next to her. And we had talked about too some of the similarities. Pardon me, some of the similarities between those two players. Maybe next match, I think I'll place one sports take bet chip on. I think we'll see Sams and Sonnet in the center back roles against Australia.
Interesting. I actually, if I had to make a pick there, I would actually expect either Sams and Davidson or Sams and McKeown. And the reason I say that is because I got the feeling, and yeah, shout out to our guy Blue. I totally agree with you. And Claire Hutton, definitely want to see some Claire Hutton minutes next time around. But I got the feeling that Emma Hayes was like, let me throw these two players, and obviously Emily Sonnet's, a tried and true, U.S. women's national team player at this stage in her career, utility player, maybe not starting center back, at the absolute apex of international football for this team. But I think Emma Hayes kind of wanted to put both of those players out there, Sonnet and McKeown, and just be like, okay, Caicedo, Myra Ramirez, let's see what you two can do. I'm going to kind of throw you into the hot water a little bit and kind of see what happens. Emma Hayes has been kind of famously talking about wanting to be too deep at every position. And obviously we know that Germa's got one of those spots. We imagine that Emily Sam's got maybe one of those spots, maybe not as tight a grip, but pretty tight. And I thought Emma Hayes was trying to just kind of see what she had with a couple of defenders. It's like, hey, if things get tight and I have to go to these two players at center back, what would that look like?
Yeah. That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, I guess I could see that. If they go if she chooses to go, we're live, baby. Luckily I hit the cough button there. If she chooses to go, you know what? That's why the cough button exists. If she chooses to go full rotation, then yeah, I think that would be really cool to see a Sam's Davidson pairing. I wonder, like, it's a 4-team tournament. You're basing it off of, I mean, obviously every team's going to play each other, but this one's ultimately going to be decided by points and goal differential. I mean, we could just line up and it's USA versus Japan. Whoever wins gets the trophy. I wonder how much that really factors in. If it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm running a risk with Davidson and Sams instead of Davidson and Sonnet or Sams and Sonnet or something like that. But I mean, the way I always look at it, I know people will try to crap on like a League Cup and be like, that trophy doesn't matter as much. I do think the overarching feeling for professional athletes and professional coaches is, are we playing today? Or is somebody going to get a trophy at the end of this? Okay, then I'm going to play. I'm going to try to win. Like, it's not like they don't look at any trophy as like, oh, I don't care about that trophy. It's like, no, I want as many of those as possible. So when I retire, I can look and say, look at all the hardware I won.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a coach like Emma Hayes. She's probably doing calculus at levels that we will never approach.
Yeah, that's true. No probably about it.
I want to look ahead of here a little bit. We talked a little bit about the Australia matchup Sunday. That's happening Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And then the other Sunday match, Colombia, Japan. That one's going down 2 p.m. Eastern. So by the time USA kicks off, we'll know what the Colombia, Japan result is. I'm kind of hoping. I mean, I love this Colombia side. Even though they played physical, I was kind of taken aback by, and I always forget this. Like, I'm just a general fan follower of global women's football. I kind of like love all of it.
Yeah.
I am a U.S. women's national team supporter. I'll say that, and a follower for sure. I will root for them absolutely, but I root for football. That's kind of like my rooting interest above all else. With that said, I do want to see Japan beat Colombia, and I do want to see USA beat Australia, and I do want to see those two teams head into that final matchup, for those SheBelieves marbles, and then kind of see who comes out the other end. Because you look at that Japan lineup, I didn't get a chance to watch it, fully locked in. I'm going to go back and kind of like catch up on it, definitely before Sunday's action. But you just look at who they had out there, and they're just absolutely stacked. And they're unpredictable, and they've got great chemistry. You can just kind of see that from jump. That would be an epic final match day matchup if both those teams can kind of go into that game 2-0-0.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad they set up the schedule that way. I don't know, it's not like Australia and Colombia are the Washington Generals out there, but something makes me think they kind of set the matches up that way, thinking that could be a live possibility. And yeah, I mean, those two teams playing for a trophy, I think it's something we want to see. So, Shanice points it out. She likes the mix between experience and letting the kids cook. I think that's going to happen every match in this tournament, even if they're playing Japan to win it. Almost, I mean, she's almost left. It's not like Emma Hayes could field a team of 11 super experienced starters. So there got to be some kids on there no matter what. But I think she has the benefit of the kids she's putting out there also happen to give her probably the best chance to win.
Yeah. I was just looking at the kids joke. Appreciate you, Shanice, for chiming in. But yeah, Emma can trot out, almost like a 25 and under squad, that's competitive. And maybe this Australia matchup is the one to kind of make that happen, because they've looked off kilter for a bit. But, you look at Sentnor, you look at Johannes. Emily Fox is still in that age band. The Thompson twins, Clara Hutton, Michelle Cooper is still just a year or two in the NWSL. So um, that could definitely happen. Would love to see that, and I think there's some appetite for it for sure from Emma Hayes specifically for kind of
Yeah.
not necessarily wanting to turn the page, but there's something about establishing a philosophy or your philosophy under the broader U.S. Women's National Team philosophy and doing that with
Mhm.
players that have made it. I think on the telecast they mentioned that maybe 13 or 14 players have made their USA debut under Emma Hayes in just a short period of time.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where things are trending. This Australia matchup, I think, is something to keep an eye out for. What's that lineup going to look like? Is the youth movement fully kicking into gear? When they roll the ball out there on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see it. I think that's what we can bet on. I think we will see it versus Australia. And then you just, and maybe just as you said, rooting for football, that might lead to us getting a dogfight out there because the
Mm,
Aussies, they like you said, they gotta try to bounce back in some way. And if they go out there and see a bunch of 25 and unders, they might think, okay, we do have a real shot out here. They're going to have to field their best lineup to kind of get that bad taste out of their mouth.
yeah, absolutely. And they still got Mary Fowler. They still got Catley, Ellie Carpenter, a ton of talented players for sure. So
Oh yeah,
they could definitely make it a game. They've got the talent. It's just going to be a matter of can they put it all together on the road here. All right, man. Great opening to the SheBelieves Cup. Anything else that you'd like to hit before we get out of here?
I think the one last thing, and I know we don't always have to hit everything in our notes, but I just want to point out that block Lily Johannes had right around the 80th minute,
Mm-hmm.
where when they show the replay, Johannes is not in the frame, and then as the Colombian player goes to hit the shot, Johannes comes flying in with the sliding block. I mean, man, that is a superstar player at 17 years old, and just the IQ is off the charts, man. So I mean, it's just like you can't leave that match thinking anything other than what we were saying when the roster was named. There cannot be another roster moving forward that doesn't have Lily Johannes on it, assuming fitness.
Yeah, I love seeing her. I thought about what you said on the show a couple shows back. I love seeing her in the lineup, and then she got the full 90 plus.
Yeah.
So that's the first time that's happened. Pretty awesome to see. Um, Forgot to mention it up top. Congrats, man! Episode 100 for your
Look at
guys.
us.
Look at us hanging out. Shanice, we appreciate you. Blue Panda, we appreciate you. We're all celebrating 100 episodes together. We wanted to hit we want to hit the button, go live to celebrate this big U.S. Women's National Team win. But yeah, it's been a good run for us too. Letting the old guys cook as well.
There you go. Yeah, approaching their 40s, maybe in their 40s. Who's to say? That's nobody's business. But I
Shit,
think
I wish I was. I wish I was a fresh in my 40s.
with that in mind, I think it is fitting because you and I have to, we have been Emily Sonnet enjoyers. I got to watch her live here for that one season for Seattle Reign. So let me just say this. It feels like there is some synergy there. We love the way Emily Sonnet plays. We love her mentality. She celebrated her 100th cap today.
Let's go.
And this is the 100th episode of the Into the Channel podcast. I feel like that only means that we have to induct Emily Sonnet into the ITC Hall of Fame.
Let's go.
I mean,
Unbelievable.
we're
Unbelievable by you.
we're a committee, so I mean, I need the cosign from you.
100% cosign. I mean, I've talked about Emily Sonnet plenty of time in my past. That's exactly my kind of player. Just mix it up. There for all of it. She's just there for all whatever's happening. She's there for it. Love watching her play. I just kind of want. I don't know. I almost want to go back and watch some old Emily Sonnet tape. Just to kind of see what I missed. Obviously I'm only a few years into the women's game, but total cosign. We were talking about a pre-show. Emily Sonnet, only the fourth player inducted into the ITC Hall of Fame. That's incredible. As a recap, Aaron Cuthbert, Aitana Bonmati, Orlando Pride legend Corey Dyke, who gave you the salute on our show.
Of course. Automatic
That
Hall of Famer.
that was yeah, no 5-year grace period. She goes right in for the salute.
100%.
Emily saw it. I mean, get her the green jacket. Yeah, I guess our logo's green. We can just put together some kind of green jacket for some theoretical internet digital green jacket for Emily. So congrats to you on this this crappy accomplishment of getting into our show's Hall of Fame. But yeah, 100 episodes, 100 caps. Love the synergy, love the alignment, written in the stars.
There it is. Yeah, we are we give out the ethical green jacket, not from that golf tournament that some people care about. We have the green jacket that is built on good things. So yeah, congratulations to Emily Sonnet.
Wonderful.
I'm sure she's thrilled.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's her phone's ringing off the hook right now, I'm sure. All right, man. I think we did it. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, if you liked, make sure you're kicking it with us. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials, except for X/Twitter, in the show notes of this episode. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. We are extremely, immensely, infinitely appreciative of everyone that hung out with us tonight and everyone who will catch up with this video/audio podcast tomorrow. It'll be released as a standalone. So either way, we appreciate you. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Angle, for, doing it live. You already know I can always count on you. Big game, big show from you. So I appreciate you, man.
Likewise, buddy. We're getting hockey assists, regular assists, knocking home goals. That's how we do it on this podcast. Again, thanks to everybody for hanging out with us. Blue, Shanice, Panda, thank you. Appreciate you guys. Everybody who watches tomorrow, thank you. We appreciate that as well. And we will see you all next time.
Awesome.
Sweet. Couldn't remember 3 names.